Nintendo fans have been waiting for quite a long time, but Xenoblade Chronicles X is now available on the Switch via this definitive edition. Whether you've been waiting to play through the game again, or just looking to try it out for the first time, there is quite a bit to like and quite a bit to unpack with this game. Let's dive in. Danny from the Famicast here. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe and turn on all those notifications. Sign off in the comments down below, and we may read it out on our bi-weekly show called the Famicast. Of course, you can find this in written form over on our website, thefamicast.com. Special thanks to our patrons for their support. Today, though, we're taking a look at Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition in this review. I won't get into any spoilers when it comes to the main story, but I will touch on just some of the basics here. Kicking off the game, Earth finds itself up against this alien horde known as the Ganglion. And after a pretty tense fight, humanity is in tatters. One remnant of Earthlings find their way out to this place called Mira, a planet. So after establishing what's called New Los Angeles, humanity must figure out how to survive, how to defend themselves, and thrive in this new world. Now the story takes a lot of twists and turns along the way, and overall I found it pretty engaging. Now there are some tropes here and there, such as, the main character having amnesia, but this actually plays pretty well into like the editable avatar, being able to be pretty much anyone that you'd like them to be. Although I do enjoy the main story beats quite a bit, side missions add quite a bit more backstory to the main protagonists as well as the tertiary characters. I won't go into specifics because I think the joy in these is just experiencing them for yourselves, but there's a pretty good range here. I mean, sometimes you'll simply be tracking down items for folks or fighting dangerous indigents, kind of like the enemies and monsters in the land, all while getting to know these in-game characters better. There's some really funny, sad, and downright deranged stories on offer here. Now, in addition to this, these side missions also grant players in-game currency and experience, so it's beneficial to tackle as many of these as you can. To change gears here, let's talk a little bit about what's new with this particular version of the game. Now, a number of improvements have been made with this definitive edition release of Xenoblade Chronicles X, and overall, I think it just makes the game even more modern and just better. Here's what's been added. So you have a more streamlined user interface, improved visuals, the ability to change your party members at any time. You can change the in-game clock at any time. There's a new feature called Quick Cooldown, which we'll touch on here in a little bit. New characters, additional story content, no blade levels or division points, which kind of simplifies things. Frontier Nav, the mapping system, this has been reworked to be accessed via menus. This can actually come up with the press of Y. All members actually now gain the same XP regardless of whether or not they're in your party. Affinity levels between characters also fill up more quickly. You can gain rewards for surveying Mira, and there are also some quest tracking upgrades, which again I'll touch on here in a bit. Now, quite a bit has been added here, and again, I think these all make what was already a great game even more accessible. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition has many complex gameplay systems that take some time to wrap your head around in terms of both combat and exploration. Just to start off with combat though, this has several different levels to like this menu-based set of options when you're engaging foes. Now each of the arts here, basically the actions that you choose when you're on the field, they have a cooldown after selecting them. However, you will always be able to do some kind of automatic ranged or melee attack. Even with that said, using the arts is the key to victory. Now, using arts at specific times in battle can grant benefits and boost with what is called a soul voice. Now, essentially, your squad mates will basically ask you to perform actions while in battle. Now, if you do this in time, you can gain HP, you can deal more damage, and more. Now, in addition to this, soul challenges, like a quick time event that requires you to hit B in time, appears to offer additional benefits. Now, after making some more progress in the game, you'll even eventually gain access to this new feature in the Definitive Edition known as Quick Cooldown. Now, the cool thing about this is this gives you the ability to completely skip cooldowns on your actions, which really comes in handy in a number of different situations, whether you're leveling up or facing off against like really tough foes. Now, there are limits to how many times you can implement this feature, but I felt that the system was pretty generous. Now, while you're hacking away at enemies, you gain what are called pension points, or TP for short. Now, these allow you to make use of stronger arts and even enter something called Overdrive. Now, Overdrive increases your attacks and reduces cooldowns on arts, and is particularly handy when facing bosses or other strong enemies. And speaking of enemies, most of them also have various points on their bodies that you can target. For example, tails, other appendages, weapons, and more. Now, focusing on these can also grant a variety of item drops, as well as provide a particularly satisfying way to take out enemies. Basically, you could slice off tails, appendages, stuff like that. It's pretty brutal, but it's pretty cool. Now, overall, I found the combat pretty fun. Now, even after just a little bit of time with the game, you'll definitely be finding the best strategies for yourself to take out foes in relation to your class, weapons, and party members. Although combat does play an integral part in the overall experience, exploration plays an equally important role. The world of Mira is vast, with tons of nooks and crannies to investigate. Leaving the confines of New LA can be rewarding and yet dangerous at the same time. Hostile indigens and xenoforms are scattered throughout the land, making trekking around Mira pretty treacherous. Now, when you come across super powerful enemies, sometimes running away is just the best course of action. The world, again, it's extremely vast and varied, offering a number of environments from plains, rainforests, deserts, and more. Caves can also be found all over the map as well, leaving for even more places to discover. Again, you'll need to be on your toes no matter where you end up exploring. As a member of Blade, you're tasked with helping expand what's called Frontier Nav, a mapping system that sheds light on all the different regions throughout the game world. Planting probes gives access to more information about the segments on the map and can also be a way to bring in a variety of items, money, and marinium, the fuel needed for Skells, and a couple of other things here too. These also serve as fast travel points too, which is pretty handy. Planning a variety of enhanced probes, which are something you get access to a little bit deeper into the game. This is something that you'll need to tinker with for story purposes or to just bring in more materials and cash. Some of the new additions in the Definitive Edition significantly change how the game is played in a good way. The ability to change out party members on the fly, alter the time of day from anywhere, and the quick cooldown really make the game more accessible than ever. Things like these have taken the tedium out of some of the aspects of the Wii U version. You also have multiple classes, this online component, which I only touched on just a little bit in this version, and also a ton of customization are also available. While the early part of the game will require you to explore Mira on foot, about halfway through the game you will get access to the game's mechs, or Skells. Now, the first one you receive, and the ones that you can purchase right off the bat, they can't fly, but their jumping ability can help you reach places that you simply couldn't access on foot. By the time you get the flight module and have the ability to fly anywhere, everything changes, as you could pretty much go anywhere as long as you have enough fuel. Combat in Skells is pretty similar to on-foot fighting, with just a few caveats, maybe just kind of one here. Now, as with general traversal, attacks that are performed or actions that are performed with your Skell that will deplete fuel. This really depends on the action in question. However, this is something that you'll have to manage. Now, in addition to this, the new quick cooldown that was found with the on-foot combat, this is not available while piloting a Skell. This aspect took a little bit of getting used to for me, especially after playing a couple dozen hours on foot, but it's something that you can easily transition to. Now, similar to enemies, your Skells can actually be damaged or even destroyed in battle. Now, damage can hamper your ability to carry out some attacks, while obviously the destruction of your Skell can be a bit problematic, to say so in the least. Thankfully, the game is pretty generous should this happen, so just before your Skell blows up, you will be able to salvage your mech with a timely press of the B button, kind of in a similar fashion to the Soul challenges. Now, even if you mess that up, Skells come equipped with insurance, so even if they're scrapped, you can pay a fee to have them repaired. In my playthrough this time, I have never had to use the insurance at all, thankfully. Now, even with that said, if you use up all of your insurance claims, if you will, and you want to still use that Skell, well, you're just going to have to buy it again. Now, one of the new Skells for this Definitive Edition, and this is something that Nintendo has been kind of showing off on social media and all that type of stuff, is called the, oh my god, I'm going to see if I can actually pronounce this, the Habersvelg. It's this new Skell. Looks pretty cool, and it brings a really cool new feature too, the ability to transform into a jet. All the Skells in the game have the ability to fly after a certain point in the game, but none of them can match the speed of this new craft. A special cockpit mode can also be toggled in this Skell, which is great to see, not really so great to control this way. But yeah, anyways, it was awesome to see such a cool mech added to this game. You know, generally speaking, Skells are one of the best parts of Xenoblade Chronicles X, and as they are practical for both combat and exploration, and they're just a blast to use. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is a great looking game. Now, although it may pale in comparison to similar titles on more powerful hardware, I think the art direction helps push the game over the top from a visual standpoint. The world of Mira is, again, I've said this a million times already, it's vast and varied. It features vivid colors, epic landscapes, and a really high level of detail. The wild areas of Mira look great and all feature picturesque backdrops that make some really cool screenshot opportunities. And just a tip here too, you can actually take a screenshot with L and R at the same time. This removes all the HUD elements, so it's a really cool way to get some really great screenshots. New LA is also full of detail with a variety of districts, townfolks, shops, parks, vehicles, and more. Now, looking even deeper, you'll find numerous computers, ashtrays on tables and stuff like that, and more sprinkled throughout the hangars and shops. Things can look a little bit muddy upon super close inspection, but overall, I think this attention to detail is absolutely fantastic. Character models look pretty good for the most part too, but it does seem like the aesthetics with these vary wildly. Some characters look like a typical anime character, while others look a little bit more westernized. It's an odd mix, but it doesn't really take anything away from the overall game. It's just kind of like a, take it or leave it, I guess, with that aspect of it. You can also easily alter your party members with gear and weapons, and it's great to see that you can deck them out pretty much any way that you want, as long as you have, the proper equipment and all that type of stuff. Skells are also full of detail, from matte or glossy finishes, thrusters, various lights and weapons, and all of these things are customizable. Now, the Definitive Edition runs at a pretty consistent 30 frames a second, however, there are times when things dip a little bit below that. I found that the main culprits for me, when I've been playing, is whenever I'm switching out characters who also have Skells assigned to them when this is like loading onto the screen. You may also experience visual hiccups while wandering around New LA too. It's a pretty dense area of the game, so there will be times when you'll see assets popping in right in front of you. Now, outside of when you enter the rare building, like the Blade Barracks or something, for example, loading times are very few and far between throughout the experience, which kind of really helps you become more immersed in this dense world. To top things off, the UI is maybe a little bit busy, but I think it's pretty easy to read, especially compared to like the Wii U version. I thought at first here with the Switch version, I thought the subtitles were a little bit large, but I think they work really great in handheld. They're fine on the big screen. X has a varied soundtrack with kind of a hodgepodge of genres. While a majority of what you will hear is orchestral, there are a lot of other themes that range from rock to hip-hop to jazz-like tracks. I can't say I was a fan of everything that was on offer, but overall I think the quality here is excellent. Voice acting here is also well done, and both English and Japanese are available. Not everything is voiced here too. That's usually relegated to main story missions and some of the Affinity missions and stuff like that. Still, there's tons of spoken dialogue that can be found in the game. The Wii U version of Xenoblade Chronicles X released in English-speaking territories in early December 2015, but was released significantly earlier in Japan, simply known as Xenoblade Cross. The whole series does not include Chronicles either, so anyways, the title debuted on the Wii U in Japan on April 29, 2015. I was there on day one, and I picked up a physical version of the game from a local shop here near my house. Now, not only that, but I also covered the game extensively over on Nintendo World Report with 2 sets of impressions and a review. At the time, there was hardly any information available on the game in English, like when I was first playing it, so it was quite challenging to figure out some of the more in-depth parts of the game. However, after 82 hours, I ended up rolling the credits. Now, while the Switch version of X improves upon the original in nearly every single way, quick access to the map is something that I miss. Using the Wii U gamepad, this was always front and center and always literally in the palms of your hands, as long as you weren't using the Pro Controller, I suppose. Now, given that you will be checking the map quite a bit in the game while exploring, this was awesome for the Wii U version. Now, embarrassingly, with the Switch version, for like my first 50 hours with the game, I would press the start button and then go to the map that way, only to find out later that you can just press Y and access it from anywhere. Either this wasn't explained, or I just got lost on these because of the overall denseness of the game in general. Now, when it boils down to it, I think one of the best changes that Nintendo has made since entering the Switch era is their ability to release games day and date worldwide. Now, the new additions to the Switch Definitive Edition X have really alleviated almost any issue that I had with the game with the previous Wii U release. Now, the text is easier to read, finding items for quests is more streamlined, and the game just looks better overall. There's really little else that you're missing out on here, aside from the map on the gamepad, with this Switch release. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is an awesome game, even all these years later. The new tweaks made to the game removed some elements that were likely to annoy many about the original. Now, the only downside to this version of the game compared to the Wii U version is the map. Of course, it's still fine on the Switch, but the gamepad really made it so much easier to check. Anyways, regardless, everything else about the game, including the obvious point of it being available on a modern platform, are reason enough to give this one a chance. If you've been sitting on the fence on this one, or just looking to play through the game again, you really can't go wrong here. Final score for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on the Nintendo Switch, 9.5 out of 10. But, let's go ahead and turn things over to you guys. Did you play Xenoblade Chronicles X back in the day on the Wii U? Have you tried out the Switch version? Sound off with any and all comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. If you like what you see, please feel free to drop this one a like. If you feel that we've earned it, consider dropping us a sub here. And if you want to take it even further, consider supporting us over on Patreon for ad-free videos, exclusive podcasts, and more. Now, for more of us here at the Famicast, be sure to check out our website, famicast.com, or check us out right here on YouTube for more video reviews, looks at Japan-only events, our bi-weekly live podcasts, and a whole lot more. Again, this is Danny from the Famicast. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you later.